The fight over COVID and mask mandates in schools is shaking up the governor's race in the state of Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma schools chief Joy Hofmeister has been pushing back against how Republican Governor Kevin Stitt has handled the coronavirus there. Earlier this month, she announced that she'd be leaving the Republican Party to run against him as a Democrat. Joy Hofmeister joining me now. We also invited the governor to join us on today's show, but he declined. So, Joy, before we dive into the governor's race, you actually opposed the school board on requiring COVID protocols in schools, and you opposed the governor when he signed a ban on mask mandates in Oklahoma. Clearly, they argue COVID requirements were an overreach. What are Oklahoma parents saying to you?
Well, first of all, thank you. It's great to be with you, Kira and Kenneth. Oklahoma families want their kids to be safely learning face-to-face in schools. And we have attempted to do that throughout this pandemic as science was still investigating and before we had vaccines available for Oklahoma adults. We are faced right now with a governor who has a pattern of pandering to extremism. And in the pandemic, it meant churning through 4 different state epidemiologists during that first year. And it has cost Oklahomans thousands, 10,000 lives lost already.
So how has prohibiting these mandates impacted schools in other ways?
Yes. So as we left the last legislative session, everyone thinking they had turned a corner with COVID. Going into this summer, we saw that our legislature and our governor signed a bill that would prevent local school districts from being able to open more safely and deal with COVID outbreaks. And certainly the Delta variant was a factor, and it hit schools harder than what they even experienced all of last year. All of this is really coming at a cost for Oklahoma school children, but not just Oklahoma school children. This is still a state where we are second highest in the hesitancy for the vaccine, and it is going to be with us far longer than it needs to be.
And Superintendent, as you know, the U.S. Department of Education has launched a civil rights investigation, in fact, several of them, into 5 states, including Oklahoma, that barred indoor masking mandates. They argue the governors are creating an unsafe learning environment for students with disabilities at high risk of severe illness from COVID. Now, I know you have switched parties to the Democratic Party, but that doesn't mean you're going to automatically agree with the Biden administration. But do you hear?
Actually, before I switched parties, I was fighting against this. I called for the repeal of that bill. It did make its way into the courts where you take during while you're out of session those conflicts with the law, and there was a stay issued by the judge. We do have great concern about the civil rights of all children that are compelled to be in school, particularly those with special education needs and those who cannot wear a mask, that need to have a safer return to school, and one that could not be afforded to them because of this law. So before I switched parties, I was against this and continue to be.
Well, take us now inside your decision to switch parties. I understand you've been a Republican for some time. When you announced your candidacy, the chairman of that Republican Party actually released a video saying you never really were. Let's take a listen. I want to get your response.
We have establishment rhinos, Republican in name only, who are working against who we say we are as a Republican Party. Just like Joy Hofmeister and those who continue to support her when she defied what we stand for as a party, like she was never for parent choice or school choice. She supports the unions that support the things that go against our values.
Your response, Joy.
Well, this is an example of the extremism, the divisive partisanship, and ineffective leadership by actually the head of the party, which is Governor Stitt. The party has narrowed to a point where it has left out many Oklahomans, including myself. I have moved to the Democratic Party. I'm a moderate, and it is one with a broad spectrum of views. I support the children's education and a strong public education for all Oklahoma kids. Also, affordable and quality access to health care, and of course, strong infrastructure across the state. These are foundational elements that all Oklahomans understand need to be stable and thriving.
And when we reached out to Governor Stitt for comment here, his campaign said in a statement, take a look, if you need more evidence, his Oklahoma turnaround is working. More than 100,000 Oklahomans have changed their registration to join the Republican Party since Governor Stitt took office. And a fact check here, Superintendent, does show that in the past 7 years, Oklahoma voters have left the Democratic Party and the Republican Party has grown. So what makes you think that a Democrat would have any chance there in that what's becoming a ruby red state there in Oklahoma?
Well, as I described, Governor Stitt has hijacked the party. Many people are very upset and alarmed by the sowing of chaos that Stitt has done. We all are looking for a leader that can be collaborative and work with people, respect one another, have common sense. I have had a track record of doing this, and this is about bringing Oklahoma values front and center again, and not a pattern of pandering to extremism that Kevin Stitt has done.
So you aren't the only GOP defector taking on the governor. Dr. Irvin Yen, a former state senator and Oklahoma City anesthesiologist, switched from the Republican Party to run as an independent. He's also criticizing the GOP's opposition to mask and vaccine mandates, as well as their support for baseless claims surrounding the 2020 election. So do you think there is a need for a third party in American politics?
Actually, I believe in a very strong two-party system, which is why I did not change to independent, but to the Democratic Party. I believe that balance is where we then have policies and legislation that represent the majority of Oklahomans, that, again, have that that common value of respecting one another and bringing people together. There is much work to do. I've stepped forward, and there is a path to success, and we are seeing overwhelming positive response as many have been cut out, left out, and are tired of the chaos.
I'll tell you what, we never get tired of covering all these races and all the debate that takes place. And Joy Hofmeister, we appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.